Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Battle Poker, a custom StarCraft 2 arcade game that you yourself can play. This is the Battle Poker Inaugural Tournament. I am bad at games, and I am being joined by Bot D. Bot D, how do you feel about this?
I'm pretty excited. We got to play this tournament out last weekend. Had some pretty exciting action at the final table, but unfortunately, we didn't get to actually see the runners-up tables. So this is our chance to look in at the action that we missed and see some players that maybe didn't get featured so much during the first couple of games.
Absolutely, and if any viewers didn't know, the winners of the runner-up table that we're about to watch actually gets a custom skin that was provided to the final players. So there is a prize for winning this table, which I was a part of. Spoiler free.
So we'll
Spoiler free.
definitely be picking your brain during some of these spots, I think, as we go through. But I think if we're ready, we can go ahead and get the game started.
Let's do it. Well, first of all, let's talk about who's in here. We got the Goofman. We have Zorminter, Metalcore, myself. We have Reach Beyond, Drunk Archon, Fancy Hippo, and Goat. Looking at this lineup of players, who do you think has the best shot here?
I mean, just going strictly by MMR, obviously my first vote would be for Zorminter. He's consistently a very high MMR Masters player. I know that he's an Aussie, so he plays kind of at odd times, but he still is able to maintain that MMR pretty consistently, which is very impressive at a high level. Um, Obviously we have you in the mix. You play pretty aggressively sometimes, and that does well at a tournament structure, especially being deep stacked like this. So I think you would be able to adapt well to this kind of structure. And then Reach, he talks a big talk. Let's see if he can walk the walk. Uh,
Absolutely. For anybody else that didn't know about this, Reach and I had a bet during this match specifically. For the tournament, it was whoever could get farther. And $10 are on the line, so y'all will get to see who won that bet. But I'm pretty excited. I remember loading up this game feeling a little nervous as I almost didn't even make this table. I had to do really good on that second qualification game to get here. But starting off, let's look at the players and what they're doing here. Dugoofman gets that raise 3 and immediately followed by several folds. Called
Man,
by
raising with
Zorminter.
21 Mutalisks. Not a bad hand. Something I usually try to wait until fewer players are involved in the pot to play, but he's going right ahead and raising right off the bat.
Mutas are a pretty interesting unit to raise upon, especially with no upgrades. I feel with mutas, I'd rather have the upgrades on my side specifically rather than none at all. They kind of need that extra DPS.
Yeah, the extra bounce damage can be hard to kind of notice, but it's definitely there when you add the +3/+3 weapon and armor upgrades to Mutalisks.
It adds a lot of damage onto those punches. Metalcore just absolutely annihilating both the skies and the ground there. Easy pick off.
First hand is under wraps, second one just dealt out. Looking at the hands, it looks like it's going to be one of those hands that potentially the first one to bet is going to take it down. Zorminter does have 9 Void Raids, Drunk Archon with 15 Corruptors, and
I'm
Goofman with
looking.
Goofman with his 8 Colossus. We know how we feel about, or how I feel about Colossus.
Colossus are really good if you can get a solid unit behind it or in front of it. It needs something, and preferably something air.
It's just so hard to play them as your first card, not knowing what you're going to have coming up behind.
I expect a fold from Fancy Hippo with the 2 Siege Tanks here. Probably from Reach Beyond as well, with the 10 Stalkers.
Man, out of nowhere, deciding he wants to go with his Colossi, raising it to 60 after a bet of 4. Um, Betting, what is that, 4 times the pot now? My goodness.
And he got it too. He would have lost the 2 other hands, and he managed to pull that away. So good raise overall.
Hey, a bluff is a bluff. If it gets through, nobody else has to know.
Makes
At
the
least we don't
blinds.
now.
Yeah, that's true. That's kind of the double-edged sword, though, of playing on stream and playing in videos, you know? You get a chance to win stuff, but your game is shown. Everybody gets to see what you're rolling with, including myself when I have the 2 Immortals, 6 Tempests. As you can see, I swap them there just in case I went down to, like, a check hand.
As it looks like so far, it may be. Nobody with a real powerhouse except for Fancy Hippo, it looks like, and maybe Goatee. Goatee made a raise of 1 with his 22 Vikings and 20 Hellbats. Uh, well, I wouldn't say an aggressive raise, but more of a fishing raise, trying to get some more money in the pot, it seems like. Fancy Hippo, I would really love to see just put in a big raise of like 8 to 10 here. Okay.
What
30 is
about
a little much.
26?
26 is a little much, but we can roll with that too.
So 8 to 10, but 26 is too far. We'll have to let him know. I'm surprised. Has Drunk Archon called this hand? No, he's deciding. He has a 24, but the one Ravager, that's not enough. Oh, yeah, that's a good
You
fold.
also have to remember we discussed that infestors are one of those units that shine particularly well in a 1 versus 1 pot. The more players that are in the pot, the worse they end up doing. So you have to keep that in mind when you're already going to be when you have the better already in front of you that you're calling to become the second person in the pot, but then you still have another player behind you that could potentially come along as well. You have to really be careful when you call with those hands like infestors or banelings.
Very true. Infestors, Banelings, Ravens also follow under that category, and they do really well in that heads up, but second you spread them out too far, they don't do very well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Speaking of powerhouse hands, we have Zormentor with his 8 carriers. The upgrades didn't go his way with him going Zerg +3/+3, but 8 carriers is still never anything to sneeze at.
The only person that could actually benefit from the upgrades right now is really Fancy Hippo, and I don't see him calling a raise like that with only 10 Corruptors.
No, absolutely not. Raising it 10 times the blind, uh, a little bit more than what the pot size is definitely an aggressive raise. It's going to be hard to make a call without anything except for a very nutty hand.
If he were to call, with how big the gold size was, you can pay to see. Just get that early info out of your opponent, and especially the highest dude in the MMR. See what he's rolling with. It's not too expensive in the grand scheme of things, but that's always an option. Or you can see if another player calls.
Very true. That's kind of emphasizes the importance of position on your opponents, letting other players go before you so you can have more information as far as what the other players may have before
That's
you have
some
to make that decision yourself.
Absolutely is true. That's something I'm struggling a lot with myself. I will see like a relatively good hand in my first card, and I'll be the first on position, and I'll raise, and you end up getting like 5 callers because of it.
I do want to know
Positioning.
for any new viewers that we have. I don't think this was covered in the first videos or the first stream. The button in this game actually denotes who moves first, as opposed to traditional poker games where the dealer button shows who moves last, just to avoid any confusion.
I didn't notice that. I didn't know that was a thing in real poker either.
Yep.
Interesting. All right. Looks like Goatee's got this one under wraps unless the 4 battlecruisers can do something, but they're gonna waste those Yamato shots on the Broodlords. Or not, but yeah, it's still the 5 versus 3. Poor Colossi, getting bullied by
Or
these Broodlords.
At least they have something to shoot at with the broodlings being spawned.
Give him something to do, give him like a participation trophy. Like, here, you shot something at least. Have it.
You tried. Goatee clutching it out. Pretty decent pot.
The game is slowly and surely taking its place with Goatee in the first position at 325 gold. Goatee also with a decently good hand with 47 Marines. That's always a very interesting unit to play.
And with a very loose early position raise with 4 Archons, only getting +1/+1 upgrades for them.
I feel like that's a little too loose. I could be wrong here, but I don't know if that's a raise that he should be making at this point.
It also depends on his image. If he's been playing tight for the first few hands, you can maybe make a play like this and hope to get just a race through. But I think he's been a little bit aggressive in the past couple of hands, so this is maybe not the one to continue that aggression with. He does luck out a little bit and draw 23 Marauders, which is a pretty decently tanky backbone. He just has to hopefully not run into any air, which unfortunately for him, Goatee with the Oracles and Drunk Archon with the Tempests might end up being an issue for him.
I actually think the Tempests are going to be fine. I don't remember the fight specifically, but the Marauders especially, there's so much hitting those Marines, there's going to be nothing to kill the Tempests. But then you still got the Oracles, and you're fine. Oh, no, no, no. I've mixed up hands. Right, no, the Tempests are good. Tempests are
Yeah,
good
the
to go.
Tempests are fine. The Tempests are fine. Nothing left that can shoot them. As we are going to see a win for Drunk Archon here.
Really, all he had to do was outlive the other two players. That's what his hand is, like said. Even if it ends up being a tie, the Queen's Tempest, that's a very tieable playing hand where you can win.
Which is entirely a legitimate strategy, playing for the tie in these big multi-way pots. If you can draw a couple of units like Tempest and Swarm Hosts that are exceptionally good at staying back, staying out of the fight, and trying to do their damage from afar, you're almost guaranteed at least half the pot, if not more.
Drunk Archon raises again on first position with 25 Widows. So I actually made the call here as well with my 13 Swarm hosts. Literally what we were just talking about. I was playing for the tie. I saw that Reach had called. I was like, all right, that's at least 3. If someone else, that's 4. My Swarm host can actually do something here.
Now, how did you feel about drawing into your 13 Phoenix with your Protoss +3/+3 upgrades?
It actually gave me a little more confidence to tie. I knew I was not winning this fight no matter what. I don't remember if I make the call here. It definitely depends on how many people call. But I do remember my strategy going into it was, all right, let's see if we can take something. Just anything. I don't care how much it is.
Elcor getting really aggressive with his 11 Archons. Not a whole lot to back him up with his 4 Broodlords, but we'll see how they work out in action.
I do make the call, and it doesn't look like it's going to go well for me. I see those Widow Mines walking up. I'm like, uh-oh. Yeah.
Sometimes you just have that feeling where, like, you sit there and you ponder for a few seconds before you make the call, and you're like, I could be good here. You click the button, the fight starts, and immediately you're just like, oh, I've made a mistake.
I'm still alive with the 6 that survived. It could be a tie here.
It could be.
The powerhouse unit of the Vikings, just
10
pure
seconds
numbers
left
alone.
in the fight.
I'm not gonna tie here, and that's the power of Swarm Host.
Yep, my goodness.
Yeah, I got what, 3 people's money? I easily doubled up what I paid for.
You're sitting in second place by 1 chip right now.
1 chip right behind Mr. Reach. Everybody else under 300 gold. When do you feel like a game is like fully taken place, where everybody understands where they are in the game, like from first to last, what position they're about to have to play?
I'd say at least a good once around the table, the first 8 hands or so. Um, it kind of gets the first hand jitters out of people. The blinds usually aren't up quite high enough to really make too much of a difference, so there's still plenty of action to go. But I think about once around the table, people kind of start to get a feel for who's going to be active, who's going to be passive, who wants to be aggressive, who just wants to check hands down.
Very good. That was very well explained. Well, right now we have Fancy Hippo with the 25 Phoenix. It folds a 25 Phoenix. How do you feel about that one? Even though Terran has 3/3, that's 25 Phoenix.
I don't put down 25 Phoenix for almost anything. It would
No.
take an all-in of exceptional proportions to get me to put down 25 Phoenix even without the upgrades. So
The 25 Phoenix would have won here. But, well, maybe he wasn't feeling it. Feeling like he wanted to keep his position a little bit longer. Too bad.
I mean, don't get me wrong, 25 Phoenix do have their own issues. You know, Archons are going to wreck them, as are Thors. Ultralisks, they can't lift. Couple of Ravens can ruin their day. So there's plenty of reasons to play them a little bit more cautiously, but still, I mean, folding right there. Yeah.
A guy once told me that 6 ravens is a perfect count, so watch out with your 25
Oh
phoenix.
my goodness.
S For anyone who don't know, that's an inside joke. I had a really bad beat to 6 ravens, so it stuck.
And now
Oh,
it's
speaking of
all we hear
ravens,
about. Speaking
Go
of Ravens,
Goatee has 20 of them. Raises with the
unfortunately,
12.
nobody else really has anything to go with him, so this should be a raise and then a fold all the way around for Goatee.
It's unfortunate. You want somebody, the best person, the best hand in here was Reach, and he folded the, what, 16, 18 mutas?
Yeah, probably a byproduct of him being second in position behind the Rays on Goatee. When you have a full five players left behind you, and you don't know what they're going to do. What was it? I think he had the mutas, 18 mutas. That's a really difficult call from aggressive Rays like what Goatee made.
Metalcore raising with the 15 Ravagers, not gonna like his day with what else is also in the fight. The Ravagers are probably gonna die here. As you can see, I called with my third favorite unit. I had 18 Stalkers, and then when I actually drew the Archon, I was pretty damn happy. I'm putting the Stalkers in front, and the idea is that if they get hurt too much, I can teleport them behind the Archons. Which, as you can see right here,
Feel about
is
that.
they take those initial shots.
It worked. Yeah, it worked out for you. I'm not a big fan of keeping the Archons out of the line of fire that early, just because they have to take so much time to get around the outside of the Stalkers. Prevents them from doing any damage to those units while they're clumped up in the air. But it seems to be working out for you. So I mean, it's not too much I can say about it.
Well, unfortunately, my Archons are busy dealing with the Tempest, and that Archon,
No, that
the
Ultra.
Ultra, yeah, the Ultra is getting free reign of the ground right now.
Oh
So,
no.
I am dead,
What bot?
unfortunately.
Oh no.
That was very close. That was very, very close. His Ormentor with the 6/1/1 battle cruisers definitely likes his hand right now.
Metalcore might be tempted to go along with the 20 Hellbats, Strunk Archon with 3 Thors.
Reach even has 13 Ravagers, and that's only 1/1 Terran. That could be a cullable hand depending on how the game plays out.
See how everybody reacts to that raise by Zormentor. Like I said, Metalcore has the count on the Hellbats. He may be tempted, especially this deep stack, to play them, but Hellbat's not particularly a strong unit.
We're about to see right here. He's got maybe what he's wanted. Ravagers do pretty well in a heads-up fight, or even in a three-way, which he's got either way. But folds them. Probably the best decision overall. Respecting.
Probably. Ravagers are always in this weird spot where I can't decide whether I want them up front to go ahead and tank and deal with stuff on the ground and just get a few extra shots in with their biles, or put them in the back and try to protect them and get as many biles out of them as I can. It always feels really dicey with some of the targeting, and how they're generally really accurate until you go to fire at a unit that loses its target and shifts that little tiny bit at the last second, and then you lose that entire 7-8 second cooldown bile, and it just gets frustrating to watch.
That's definitely true. They don't ladder. They don't scale up well. Like if you're a Zerg player in ladder and you've tacked into Ravagers and you stay on that, if a Protoss goes Colossi, you're probably going to die. And in this game mode, you can you have infinite access to any of the units possible. So if you go into a large group with Ravagers, they don't scale well along with the other guys. That's the only problem, but their vials they do pack a mighty punch.
We have Goofman making the min raise here with his 8+2+2 Ultralisks.
He's also got the
Um,
Archons. How do you
I
feel
mean,
about the Archons being placed up front?
I think it was just a mistake. I think clearly you want to have those ultralisks up front in this situation. Um,
I mean, you still got
I
it.
mean, yeah, it's still
You
it's a
still
powerhouse.
got it.
It's a powerhouse hand. But the idea is that just in case there's any air, you want to have those archons available and not use them to tank anything that comes up in the front.
Well, the Goof Man shooting from last to fifth, getting a good amount of gold there. Reach still in first. We're on hand 15. I feel like right here around hand 15 is where the game has fully taken shape. This is where poker begins, you know.
Hmm.
Like Fancy Hippo knows that he has to play a little more cautiously. Reach can see if he can try and pick off a few people here, there, or just try and scrape by some gold, keep his lead for as long as possible. Then you have players, you know, like in my position right now, that's like, all right, where am I going to end up in 5 minutes? My you know decision in life in this game still hasn't really been decided yet.
I could definitely say this table is playing a little more slowly and methodically than our winners final table did, with Sanja going out ninth after the ninth hand at the
Really?
final table. Yeah, he was the first one out, and it went that quickly.
I didn't get a chance to see that live or quite yet because you know I was in this match. But I would not expect Sunja to be out that quickly.
Hmm. Played very aggressively, and it just did not quite work out for him in the end.
Drunk Archon, I feel like has the worst hand in this situation. I wouldn't be surprised if he folds. Yeah, good fold.
We have a pretty big sized pot here, 270 chips. Zormentor with the battle cruisers and marines, Goofman with his oracles and archons.
It's very unfortunate for these Archons, even with 1-1, they just weren't enough. Those Marines had so much DPS and so many numbers that it just gave the battle cruisers time. That's all they needed.
Indeed, Zormentor shooting to the top of the leaderboards with 477 gold, clearly in first place now.
And with
Um,
3-3 battle cruisers. Holy cow. It's crazy to look at like from I remember playing this game and I got my, you know, like 19 professors. Whenever I get a hand like that, I'm like, yes. And then you're looking at what everybody else has and you're like, no, don't do it. It's a bad idea. And it's easier to play the game from the standby. I do actually end up folding those infestors, which I'm a little surprised by.
Poker certainly is a lot easier to play when you can see everybody else's hands.
Zormentor going all in. And the call by Drunk Archon. He's not going to be happy about this one. Now, a
There's
couple Yamatos
Yamato.
were wasted. Yeah. He did waste a couple of Yamatos. That might be the end for him, but he also has the 3-3.
Very true. Just remember those battle cruisers do less damage to air than they do to ground, so even with the 3-3, no, I think
Nah,
he's still
they're
going
good.
down. Yeah.
They're good. That just means that these Adepts are going to die quicker, too. There's no chance of a tie here.
10 seconds.
I say
I don't
that. I
know.
could be wrong. I'm probably wrong. I am wrong.
I
Never mind.
those adapts a little tanky.
They are very tanky. I forget that sometimes. That's why they're really good against Zerglings. Well,
What
we
is
have
it? I
Drunk
believe
Archon
it's
here.
90 shields, 90 HP on each one of them.
That's not bad. For such an early unit. Well, we got Drunk Archon here with the 20 Queens and Fancy Hippo with the 11 Archons. I say those are the two to win it.
May see some fireworks here after Drunk Archon's raised to 40. Fancy Hippo fancies a call. I'm assuming you're, yeah, not going to make the call with your
No.
four lurkers. Took a
No.
second to ponder it, but
I
not
was
throwing up
not.
any timing tells.
I don't worry too much about timing tells when I play. I just push buttons. I hit that check fold button probably more than I should.
Will not say who, but I have had a very top level player tell me that I throw off timing tells like crazy. So I've been trying to make an effort to to hide them a little bit better.
These queens are eating a lot of these shots, giving these Vikings a ton of time with the one upgrades. And that's exactly going to be what he needs. Trunk Archon. Well played. Good raise. Going into hand 18, we actually have Fancy Hippo now on the bottom, with about half his original stack left.
This one might be interesting. Drunk Archon with 79 Banelings, a certain threat to anything on the ground in our hand so far.
Except for
Uh,
Infestors.
True, except for the Infestors.
I raise here with the 24 2/2 Stalkers.
Certainly a strong hand to start with, worthy of a strong bet. Metalcore makes the call with those Infestors.
It's a scary hand, especially for something like me. If I can't blink out of the way, that's a big problem. However, him drawing only the one battlecruiser and
What
me
a
getting the
brick.
yeah,
What a
uh,
brick.
it's very unfortunate. My Archons are about to eat all of these shots as well. And heads up, I actually did put the Archons up front.
Very
Thisters are
strong.
good. You need something behind him though. If that was like 5, 6 battle cruisers, I mean, I'm still 2/2, so probably not, but it would have put up a much better fight. Very unfortunate for Metalcore there, who now drops in last place.
Zormenter's still on top with nearly 500 gold.
However, he's not going to be playing this hand with only 4 Cyclones. The real story here is Reach Beyond with the 24 wildcards and raising by 30.
So again, for any new viewers that we have, the wild cards are a special unit. Each unit will roll individually out of all the units available in the game, except for Mothership or Dark Templar. So you actually get a combination of a bunch of different unit types instead of just one big blob of a bunch of one unit from it.
The wild card is it's a double-edged sword. You either get I feel like with me personally, it only goes one way or the other. Either I will get a killer hand or I'm going to get 24 probes, for example, which you can't get, but you get the idea. It's going to be bad.
Yeah, it certainly adds another level of gambling to your hand. Generally, large numbers of wildcard units are considered to be very strong. But there's always that chance that you just roll a bunch of Marines or Reapers or just units that overall don't really help you out, and you're SOL.
Zormentor with a massive raise with the 3/3 Colossi. Now, Goatee does have 21 ghosts, and with a Protoss base upgrade, that's looks kind of tempting, at least for me, because if they have Archons or something, it doesn't matter, but probably smartly folds.
I
Zorm
strongly agree with you on the note about Ghosts playing them into a Protoss 3/3 upgrade. Anything that involves my opponents having more likely to be Protoss units, when you have Ghosts on the board, is just a welcome invitation for more EMPs.
Mhm. More and more. We have Reach Beyond with the 42 raise with the 7 Thors. Zormentor re-raises with the 20 Ravens.
Strong
Everybody,
re-raise. What is that? Almost twice the bet. Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot. Reach Beyond has a tough decision here. However, he does have 7 Thors. Makes the call.
I could see this working
Uh,
out.
no, Zormentor just drew 9,
Oh yeah, not
9
against the
Immortals.
Immortals.
I'm
Not
like,
against the
the Thors
Immortals.
are dead. The Thors are dead inside of the
Yeah.
Phoenix. Reach Beyond, if Zormentor raises right now, I feel like he's making even more money. I feel like Reach will call. He does raise. Probably a call. There
Two
he is.
into what was it, a 400 ship pot? So yeah, Reach only needed to be right 1 in 5 times to make that call. I mean, clearly we see here that just wasn't gonna happen, but it's so hard to put down that many Thors.
It is. Even with 14 Phoenix, that's not a bad hand to have.
No,
Eh,
not at all. Not at all.
well,
Drunk Archon here with 16 lurkers with his +3/+3. Let's see how he plays those. Started with a check. under the gun. He may be going for a check raise.
Zorminter just checked 9 Liberators.
I would agree with that. It's still a full table, I believe. Um, 9 Liberators is not quite enough to have that critical mass to annihilate air units the way you really want them to.
What would you say the sweet spot is? Obviously not like max count, that would be, perfect, but would you say like 12 Liberators?
I think for Liberators to stand on their own, I'm looking for 14 plus. If I already
14.
yeah, if I already now I'm talking about them just playing them on their own, not having
Oh,
a
okay.
second card to support them. If I do have a strong second card, I'd go as low as like 11.
11? Okay, okay.
But again, that also depends on how you're going to play them. I'll play them more aggressively when I have that 14 plus as my first card. But if I'm under 14 for my first card, I'm going to play them a little bit more passively. Wait to make sure that I have something to back them up and make them strong and able to get that firepower on the board for me.
Well, just as like you're describing, the Zorminter's Liberators were not enough to kill the Tempest by the all-in Metal Core, so he's going to be doubling up here and getting back on the board.
Nancy Hippo and Goofman both down to under 10 bets. Reach Beyond sitting just at about 10 bets. So we're going to be hopefully seeing our first casualties here pretty soon.
I would imagine so, and Zorminter can just sit on top for now with his little crown and golden chair. If you're in that kind of position that Zorminter is right now, what is your strategy going into the game? Do you continue to try and like take out players and snipe them, or do you sit back and say, "Hey, go kill yourselves. I'm gonna sit back here."
It's less about attacking specific players and more about attacking specific pots. You want to take down pots where players are just generally showing zero interest in putting chips in the middle, just to get that all those extra chips out of circulation. The more chips you have in your stack when people start going out, or the fewer chips you have to fight for. And in those short stack, high variance situations where you're playing with only 3 or 4 players at the table, you have to start playing more aggressively and open up your hand selection so that you're going to be winning and losing a lot more pots versus playing at a full table of 8 players where you can kind of sit back a little bit and wait for those spots to attack because each pot's going to be bigger with more players anteing into the pot.
Very true. Fancy Hippo getting a nice double up here from last place. Shooting up to 336 gold, and Reach dropping down to 22.
Each with his last bet and change behind. Starting out with 9 roaches, not what you want to look at when your life's on the line at a poker table here.
Nah, he needs to fold these roaches and just pray. Pray that his next hand will be what he needs.
I actually think I agree with you in this situation. At a full table of 8, you're still going to be able to win those 8 bets back, even if you fold yourself down just to the 1 bet. And clearly, you're not going to win anything at an 8 player table with 9 roaches. So I think this is one of the few situations where I would agree that it's correct to fold yourself down to just that 1 bet and change and hope for something better.
Zormentor with the 24 Corruptor raise. The Goofman calling, or going all in, excuse me. This could actually be interesting. The RNG for this fight is about to be, like, I can't predict who's about to win here. If the Marines were up front, I'd rather see them ahead of the Stalkers. That way they can take the shots from the Raven.
Yeah, the problem is that we know that the Ravens targeting is going to be completely random across anything within range of it. So it's going to be, I think, a matter of who ends up taking more of the Raven shots. Okay, well, we had a fold, so it ends up being a moot point.
How do you feel him folding the Corruptors? It was 24 Corruptors and a solid second. I don't remember specifically what it was. I think it was Vikings. It was.
Yeah, it was the Vikings. I probably would not have been able to make that fold. I probably would have called. I don't know how the fight would have gone. Um,
Well, unfortunately for Goof, man, he is our first player out. Reach about to be the second, most likely.
Well, Reach lucked out and got 16 lurkers, so he's going to be able to annihilate most things on the ground if he does get called by ground units. Fortunately for him, that's all that's left in the hand right now. As Metalcore has 25 Marauders
And the
and
50 Marines.
50 Marines. Now, this is going to be interesting. How do you play this? Do you put the lurkers in the back, or do you put the lurkers up front and let them go ahead and fire off as many shots as they can?
Absolutely in the back, especially since these stalkers are going to be blinking anyway. They're buying so much time for these lurkers. Just get them time to burrow. Let the stalkers bring them back in, which is exactly what happens here.
Mm.
Reach Beyond making a good amount of money here.
And like I said, now he's back in this game. He's got about 6, 7 bets left now, so he's got a little bit of time to look for another hand. This is the one of the advantages of playing with an ante system instead of blinds. The more players that are in the pot, the more you have to win from each. The more you can win as a total pot size.
Metalcore in second place now at 541 gold. He's about to catch up to Zorminter there, who's actually lost it over the last couple minutes.
Well, I don't think he's going to catch up to Zorminter this hand, as he has 49 Zerglings and 19 Medivacs, two of the lowest tier units that we have on our tier list.
Imagine a Terran Zergling drop. That'd be
And Space
terrifying.
Zergling drop.
That would be
Oh
terrifying.
no.
It's like a team up. They're like, here, let me go carry your Zerglings across.
I'd be more afraid of Ultralisk drops with Medivacs behind them.
Oh
Like,
no.
think about that. Like, that's just disgusting.
That'd be wild. Fancy Hippo. He's got the 2-2-12 Ravens. How do you feel about that 12 Raven count? I still play them in heads up fights.
In heads-up fights, you can use that number of Ravens as a support unit. You would still want something pretty strong and tanky up front just to make sure they can get their second round of Hunter Seeker missiles off. They're certainly not the powerhouse that like 20 plus Ravens are, where you can basically just play them on their own with as much firepower as they have. But I mean, yeah, 12, 13, 14 Ravens still absolutely playable.
Drunk Archon getting very lucky there that the Zerglings were indeed played. Otherwise, he would have been annihilated by those 12 Ravens.
We're starting to approach the point where players are going to have to start playing very aggressively to stay alive. We have Goatee down to his last 10 bets. Reach still struggling with his last, can't do math in my head right now, 7 bets, it looks like, give or take. Everybody else still kind of hovering around the 15 to 20 bet range.
I myself am currently in 5th place. These carriers and HTs need to work together if they're going to kill those Cyclones. If those Cyclones live, they're going to come back with vengeance. A couple more good storms off should finish them, though.
Yeah, I think those Cyclones don't stand a chance.
Another nice one pop by Goatee. I feel like at this stage, especially with the blind so high and with some bets going in there, winning those small fights like that is absolutely amazing. It completely shifts the momentum of the game.
Now here we see you're down in 6th place with 201 chips. Reach is still down in 7th at 68. Given that you have that current side bet going on, does this change the way that you play at all? Are you looking to specifically outreach and try to get him knocked out as quickly as possible, or are you trying to play more of a generalized aggressive approach just to attack and gain chips and go for the win at the table, so to speak?
So in this specific moment in time, I was upset with myself for getting out that first one that hurt, getting out first in the first qualification match. But in this game, no. I wanted to not only beat Reach, I wanted to beat everybody. I was playing to win. I figured if you play to win, you're gonna beat Reach anyway in the bet. So I might as well go all or nothing.
Very true. Very true. Here we have Fancy Hippo basically playing his 6 Dark Templar, Reach playing 6 Void Rays and 9 tanks.
What do
Gonna
you
get the bad
mean?
news about the Dark Templar.
What do you mean? The 25 Hellions. They're the MVP here. Look at that
Unfortunately,
micro.
we did not have Vibe in this game, so I don't think the Hellions are gonna do a whole lot.
Vibes Hellion micro. That's all we need.
I did
But
have a significant pot that I won the other day in a battle poker game. It was with Hellions and a mothership.
nice, nice. Fancy Hippo drawing an absolute monster of a hand as 23 Ravens. Drunk Archon with a solid 12 Immortals, and Reach Beyond with 21 Stalkers.
Don't forget you yourself with 16 Ravagers.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even see that. I probably play the Ravagers. I really
Ravagers
like
are a good
Ravagers.
unit. Ravagers are a good unit. Not so great against the Ravens, but they're generally overall a pretty strong unit.
I do fold to that massive raise,
Good fold,
which,
as we can see.
yeah. Well, actually, so depending on what the second card is drawn, it doesn't matter if Terran is 3/3 or not. Those vials of the Ravagers are one counter to Ravens. But that's a lot of like if I get something to just live. However, right now we have Ravens versus Carriers. But with the 3/3, those Carriers are not doing anything to Ravens.
No, unfortunately not. I believe that would come out to 4 damage per attack by the carrier's interceptors, so just not quite enough to really get the Ravens dead fast enough.
Fancy Hippo doubling up on Drunk Archon and shooting himself into first place. Drunk
Metalcore
Archon
here.
dropping.
Metalcore here with 20 queens. Makes the raise 3 times the ante. Especially in late position, this is a very, very effective play. You're looking basically to take down the pot uncontested, but in the case that you do get called, you have an extremely strong survivable unit in the back that lets you play pretty honestly once you draw your second card and can see how strong your hand is.
I feel like that's one of those units where you don't care if it's a heads up match or if it's a big player match because it could kind of do both.
Yeah, that's very true. Although I'd guess your second card, whatever you want for your second card, would change very drastically depending on if you're in the 1v1 position or if you're playing in a multi-way pot.
I am currently all in with these DT Zealots. I had a lot of DTs. I figured it was worth a shot if, I was starting to get low in gold. So I'm going to make a nice double up on Metal Core. A little more than double up because of the antes.
For a 474 chip pot, that's going to be good enough for third place.
Yes, it is. Makes my position feel a little bit better. I'm sure Reach at this moment was a little worried about his $10.
What's worse than the $10, I'm sure, is that his pride is at stake.
That's true. That's very, very true. I still have yet to let him live it down.
Oh, as I'm sure it's going to be for a long, long time.
I kind of
Uh,
spoiled it there, but I think it's okay.
oh no, so much for the spoiler free.
It's okay. We lasted 58 in-game minutes. I feel like that's pretty good.
Oh man.
Got a
So
lot of
the
action here. I myself have 13 Liberators.
Metalcore making the call with 16 Banshees. I've grown to like Banshees quite a bit, even as a first card. There's something that I used to fold without much of a second thought, but the way that Cloak works, there's so much damage they can do before they even have to worry about being fired upon. It's pretty fantastic. They do pretty well.
While two players are currently all in, Reach Beyond and Drunk Archon, I myself, however, have 13 invisible Banshees. I mean, not Banshees, Liberators. So, yeah, I clean house through this one.
There goes the seed run on the Liberators, tearing apart the Queens.
Mothership, I've started to like the Mothership more and more, depending on what the second card is. If you get something like Liberators, or even HTs, I've seen do some work with that Mothership. But if you can get it in like a 3-4 way, you hide from everybody. Let everybody fight each other and you jump in on top. Which is exactly what happened here and eliminated Reach Beyond and Drunk Archon, going out in 7th and 6th place.
Very nice. And we have you now sitting at 799 gold, effectively a third of the gold in the game with 5 players left. So definitely plenty of a stack to play some poker with. On the other side of the bus leaderboard, we have Goatee down to 264 and Zormender down to 426.
How do you
Um,
feel about Metacore's All In with the 90 Banelings? Luckily, he will get the thing here, the antes here. But how do you feel about that kind of a raise in that position?
it's a scary play to make, but it's a strong one to make. You're playing mostly for the fold equity. You're hoping that your opponents are going to fold and just give you the pot uncontested. But in the case that they call, there's roughly a 65% chance that at least that first card is going to be a ground unit, and your Banelings can annihilate it and hopefully be enough to carry you to victory.
Metalcore with another all in. Everybody folds and gets the antes once more. He's still in last. Oh, no, he's not in last anymore. He's in second to last with a decent amount of gold now.
Nobody with much of an interesting hand this time around, except for Metalcore with his 4 Dark Templar. Going all in again with such a big stack, I think this time was a little bit of a mistake. And you've already gotten yourself back up to above 10 antes. You've got plenty of time to wait for some hands. I mean, a bet would be fine, maybe 2 to 3 times the blind, but an all in like this, oof. You're just waiting for somebody to call you and bust you just from having the wrong typing of counter.
I do draw the 22 wild cards and 11 Broodlords, which destroys his thing. As long as I can get a
Oh,
Raven
you
or a
got the
Purple.
Raven. You
Did I
got
get
the
the I
Raven.
did get the Raven.
Yeah.
What's also nice about wild card units is you typically do get at least one detection unit, so it will destroy DTs. Metacore being eliminated out in 5th, and myself jumping up to 1,212 gold.
That's effectively half the gold in the game, so definitely a strong lead going into four-handed.
Absolutely. I was feeling pretty good at this moment. I knew I had the momentum, I knew I had the power with the money, and I was drawing some decently good hand carriers. They have to go through that mothership first. However, with only 12 HTs, I just don't think that's enough damage output.
No, unfortunately not. Those carriers are pretty tanky. As impressive as the Psionic Storms look, again, they only do 20 damage per second to units that are underneath them, so it would just take an excessive number of storms and a lot of time to DPS those carriers down with only the storms.
Looking at this four-way match, Bata Games having 22 Stalkers, Fancy Hippo having the counter to that with 5 Immortals but does fold.
Just not enough Immortals, I would say. Immortals a pretty strong unit, but it definitely helps to have them in higher numbers. I'd be looking for about 8 to 9 personally in that situation. I'd probably not be able to find a call with the 5 per myself.
Myself pushing with the 13-3-3 Banshees, gets another fold out of everybody. Fancy Hippo drawing the Liberators once more, folds 9 Liberators, now draws 12. I myself get the 13 Lurkers with 3-3.
Gotta love the Liberators in these smaller handed tables. Much less likely that somebody's gonna wake up with something like battle cruisers or carriers and just kind of ruin your day before you can get rolling.
How do you feel about Fancy Hippo continuously folding these Liberators? Is he trying to outlive the other players?
He may just be worried about the Liberator AI. I know that it's not the greatest, or at the time that the tournament was played, it was not quite the greatest. It had gotten improvements recently, but just still has a few issues here and there. And some players just don't trust the Liberators. I've run into a couple of people today that have been kind of the same way for Ravens. They're just like, you know what? I know they're strong, but I don't trust them because they keep blowing themselves up. And I don't know. I mean, you have to understand it is a game. This is a poker game, which is gambling. So some people are going to have their superstitions that may affect their gameplay from time to time.
Very true. Zorminter being in first at the start of the game, now all in at fourth. This could be a close one. 21 Mutas versus 19 Vikings. I actually feel like the Vikings do win this one. I don't know how that matchup specifically plays out. Getting some initial great shots off. Muta's trying to do the split but without the upgrades, it's not doing too much, but it does seem to be enough. Numbers on both sides keep dropping. However, the Mute is just outnumbering the Vikings. 3 Immortals standing
Too
guard
many
just in case.
mutilates. A good problem to have as a Zerg player.
You are not
This could
wrong.
be a hand. Fancy Hippo with his 5 carriers. Goatee waking up with 23 Phoenixes.
Going into three-handed, I myself am in first, Goatee in second, Fancy Hippo in third.
I might say it's a very distant second and third at that.
Bad games must be feeling pretty good about himself right about now. It's honestly his game to lose at this point. We shall see what happens. Unfortunately, Fancy Hippo drawing the 3 Hellbats to Goatee's 3 Void Rays.
A little bit of a skirmish going on here. Phoenixes should be able to at least survive. Well, yeah, definitely at least survive. It's going to be a matter of can they lift all of these Hellbats fast enough to kill them. Looks like the answer is going to be yes, and Fancy Hippo is going to go down.
The 2 bottom players kind of slugging it out for second at the moment. We've been seeing a lot of Stalkers this game, and good counts too, as Goatee just raised 23 of them. Now gets 11 Archons. No
11
one else.
Archons up against the Terran 2-2 could be a little spicy, especially with the Terran 2-2. Ghosts become a little bit more playable than they normally do. So that's something to kind of watch out for when you're playing Archons.
It's very true. Gotta draw the ghost first, though.
Very true.
I'm a 14 meters, 12 Banshees, raising 120. I actually don't like this raise. I feel like in someone in my position, I need to wait for like a better hand that I can force them all in with. I don't like this raise. I don't like fighting this fight in my position. As you can see, I get absolutely annihilated by the 4 Liberators.
Yeah, I mean, your hand was just a little bit too fragile to really be able to stand up too much. If you could have replaced those Mutilisks with something a little bit more tanky, like maybe some Corruptors. I don't know.
Well, we have 18 Adepts and 2 Carriers versus the all-in Fancy Hippo with 72 Zerglings and 2 Battlecruisers. It's really going to be a fight over air superiority, which Battlecruisers with the 1-1 should definitely take it.
Finally, Yamato hits home on the carriers. Just a waiting game to see now if they're going to be able to take out those Adepts in time.
Adepts trying their best to take as many shots. Like we did say before, they're bulky, but they don't scale very well.
10 seconds left. They're still running around. There's a couple of them that were left undamaged now without shields.
The Adept...
Oh,
Oh my
oh!
goodness. Very
Buzzer
close.
beater right at the last second finally goes down, giving Fancy Hippo the full pot.
Very, very close. Fancy Hippo, if that would have gone to a tie, he would have been in a very difficult situation to come back from. Absolutely needed that win, and he got it.
Well, Fancy Hippo still not in great position with 3 bets left behind his current ante of 60. 13 lurkers and 1 mothership, not really your best bet going into a situation like this, but I mean, you got to roll with what you're given. Unfortunately, going to see the bad news as his corruptors are going to take out the mothership. These lurkers might be able to beat the cyclones, but
Absolutely. They tear everything to the ground.
even so, it's still just going to be a split pot as the corruptors cannot shoot down.
Fancy Hippo not getting the extra double up, getting stopped. Still making my ante, though. Half of my ante, so a little bit more. Everybody drawing dead here.
First person to bet takes the pot. Oh, we have Goatee waking up with 5 carriers.
And it goes to a 3-way. No raise.
Interesting check from the carriers. I would have put a little bit of a spicy bet in there.
Like an anti-raise or a double anti?
Probably just a double anti-raise.
Double anti-raise. All right. All right. Goatee having a good hand to a check fight. And Goatee getting right up there in second place.
Oh, we have quite the hand brewing now. Goatee with 8 Ravens, Bad waking up with 23 Hydralisks, and Fancy Hippo with 24 Phoenix. Could be anyone's game. The Ravens dropping out very quickly.
Fortunately for Bad Games, Fancy Hippo did draw the 14 Adepts, which is most likely going to be the firepower he needs to just clean right through these Hydras. Adepts quickly taking care of the Void Rays and just, yeah, it's a slaughter.
It is a slaughter.
Fancy Hippo getting another double up. And Bad
We
Games
have
dropping into second place.
looks like the wealth has been bleh, I can't talk today.
Distributed.
Redistributed. Yes. Ah, Bad losing his lead down to 812 chips.
I feel like in this situation, if you're somebody who was in first and just keeps dropping and dropping, just fold. Stop playing hands.
Just
And like
tighten up
sit.
and wait for something to come to you.
Mm-hmm. Pretty much.
Okay.
Just wait it out.
Well,
That's why I let this
unfortunately,
go to a check.
the number of bets in the game is starting to dwindle as I think we're up to 68 now.
Myself having a. I do actually really like this combo of HTs and Siege Tanks. If I wasn't on such a losing streak, I would have actually bet with that. But I wanted the momentum to shift.
Well, that is certainly one way to do it, winning a pot like that. We have another hand where anything could go. 7 ghosts are going to be able to shut down those 2 archons and 7 queens, but not a whole lot else going on. I think the goatee's hand is going to hold up, even though Fancy Hippo decides to go all in and takes it down uncontested.
Goatee has got to love his position right now, drawing the 22 queens.
Very strong against the Zerglings and the Reapers that are on the board.
Raises 152 and gets the ante. He also draws 4 Thors, which currently beats everything else on the board. As you see, the momentum has shifted in definitely Goatee's favor, just going higher and higher and higher. Stealing these antes.
Well, when there's only oh, once again, I'm stuck trying to put myself in a position to do math, and I can't do math. When there's only about 30 bets or so left in the game, stealing the antes is definitely still a strong play. You don't need a strong hand to be able to take down antes uncontested if nobody else has anything. You just got to have the timing to be able to know when to put those bets in.
Called that his first bet with the Colossi, which I kind of wish I hadn't, but then I folded to his second bet. I myself drawing the 10 Archons, kind of wish I raised looking at this footage.
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
I do decide to go all in.
Interesting hand with the 42 Reapers and the Roaches.
I do get the fold, however, and get the anti-steal. Fancy Hippo drawing the best hand at 10 Void Rays. If Goatee suspects DTs, he could be making a bad call here, which he does. Also drawing the 12 Infestors. We will see if that will be enough here. My guess is no.
I wouldn't necessarily make the Oracle call a bad call. It certainly didn't work out in this situation, but overall in this three-handed table, Oracles do pretty darn well against a large portion of the cards that you can draw. So I think playing that hand is entirely reasonable. It just happened to not work out this time.
You're right, you're right. Fancy Hippo drawing the 43 Marines. I myself with 10 Archons and Goatee with 16 Phoenix. This is actually a pretty well spread out like unit. It was the first time where everybody had something like decent. Drawing the 25 medevacs.
Here
That's
we
a lot of
go.
medevacs.
That is a lot of medevacs to take down for those corruptors. However, I don't think it's going to be the issue as the Archons are going down very quickly, and those Marines are going to be left unchecked.
Splash damage is great until medevacs just heal everything you do. I myself having the 1-1 upgrade, probably not dying to these Marines, so it should be a split pot.
As they continue to stutter step right on top of each other.
Just going down very rapidly.
Oh,
I do
10
end up
seconds
losing
left.
this.
Yeah, I was about to say that's quite a long
Marines!
time they had left.
My goodness, I have been off tonight.
And bad down to your last ante, 84
I
chips
am.
already in the middle with 2 liberators.
I really did need that. I really did need that hand to win, and it just failed me. I was very sad. And I was like, uh-oh. Drawing against 24 Ravens, you can see my exit was quite an explosive one.
Yeah, you could say that. Here come the Hunter Seeker missiles by the Ravens.
I do thank Fancy Hippo. At least I got away with some fireworks. I'm okay. I beat Reach. That's all that matters. I beat Reach.
At the end of the day, getting lunch paid for is all that truly matters.
That's all you need. The food.
That's all you need.
Food just tastes so much better when you don't pay for it. When it's not yours to pay. It's great. Fancy Hippo and Goatee having the same amount of gold. Fuck!
No, we had a little production
Shit.
problem where the replay we had was actually from Bad at Games' perspective, and therefore, when he left the game, we did not get to see the end of the heads-up match. So, um, okay, the match did end up going to Goatee. Um, just so that we have closure for anybody that's watching the stream didn't get to catch the end of it. Did we cover the end of the runner-up table on the mainstream? I seem to remember maybe we did that. So possibly go and check the mainstream out on YouTube, our archives, to see if you can catch the end of the match.
But Goatee does win this one?
Yeah, Goatee does end up taking this one down. I
Okay.
remember because I made a comment on the final table. We had a player at the final table that only had, I believe, 14 games played total. And then we had Goatee taking down the runner-up table with only 10 games total played on his account.
That's amazing. I love that. We got some newbies in there to win. How about that? Well, overall, I feel like for our very first tournament, this was a success. I mean, it's maybe not like as we see now with the production issue. It wasn't pitch perfect, but we're really hoping everybody enjoys it and that we can continue to make stuff like this. I mean, we for the next one, we plan to be even bigger and better.
Absolutely. We've already gotten lots of feedback from the first tournament. Most of it's been very positive. People wanting to go ahead and contribute and help set up the next one. So hopefully we'll have that in the next coming days. But stick around and stay tuned. We'll see what happens.